Hello and welcome to Straight Talk with Arun Kumar. Today's topic is about the upcoming U.S. primary elections, and tonight my guest is a Republican congressional primary candidate from District 6 in the state of New Jersey, Sammy Gindi. Hello, Sammy. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Thank you for having me.
Sure. Welcome. Thank you for your time. How's your campaign going?
So far it's going well.
Yeah.
I already have 8 volunteers through my website. Thank God, that's a nice number. Getting some donations, gaining some speed, but it's still the beginning.
Yeah.
Still early.
Yeah. You're not Bloomberg or you're not Trump,
No.
so it got to be hard to find volunteers and
Yeah, exactly. Have to do everything grassroots. Don't have any
fundraising and yeah.
no political money, no campaign money from beforehand, doing everything from the start.
So where are you from originally?
So I was born in Monmouth County in Long Branch, New Jersey, in Monmouth Medical, and lived in West Long Branch my whole entire life in the Syrian Jewish community down by the shore.
So that falls under your district, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
So you're
West Long Branch, Deal, that's all part of my district.
So it's home district for you.
That's correct.
So you're totally brought up there. You graduated from there and all that.
Went to school there my whole entire life. Studied abroad for 2 years after high school, but I went to high school in my district.
You're
Yeah.
like what, 25?
25.
Well, that's too darn young, Sammy.
Yeah.
For a congressman.
It's young.
You're barely qualified, right?
Exactly. If I do win, I would be the youngest person ever elected in the history of Congress.
Yeah, we should good luck on that.
Yeah.
So why Congress? Why not Senate?
Senate, you have to be 30 years old.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
it. That's the only thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
In Congress, we have people like AOC, people like,
Right.
just one. She doesn't have any political experience, but she knows how to make a stink. So, I want to be on the other side of that.
Okay. So what's the first thing you're planning on doing if you were to get elected to Congress?
So I would help President Trump with his agenda, with anything that he needs help. We need to turn the Congress red because the past 4 years, even though he's got a lot done, they've been trying to stop him at every turn. And we just need a Congress that helps support our president, help with tax reform, help with criminal justice reform, help the American people. So I'm just going to support President Trump.
Aside from supporting Trump, do you have your top 2 or 3 things you plan on doing?
So I want to push my own tax reform plan. Obviously, I don't want to go against the president, but what I'm proposing is something that they were talked about in the 1990s. So basically, instead of the income tax, because the income tax hurts workers. So if you're getting paid from a job, they take payroll tax. But if you're getting paid under the table, illegal immigrants, things like that, then that hurts legal workers because they're not paying any taxes on the money that they're making. So what I'm proposing instead is a consumption tax instead. Basically how that would work is you only pay money when you actually buy something, and when you work, you don't get penalized and you're able to save. It will help boost the economy in many ways. And another thing I'm very passionate about is criminal justice reform. I think that the current criminal justice system hurts regular people because even if you're not doing something that hurts another person, you get a simple ticket, maybe you're going 31 and a 25, and then you get a ticket. It could be $500, $600, it could be 4 points on your license. So not only if you don't have the money, will they take away your license, you could face going to jail, you could lose your job, and it could really affect your family as well. So something that I'm proposing is that instead of having to pay tickets with money, you should be allowed to do community service automatically. So let's say you get a $500 ticket. So if you're not able to afford it, instead of facing jail time, you should be able to actually go spend 5 days cleaning up the beach or helping the community or volunteering at a synagogue or a church, something like that. And I think it will really help lower class people.
Before we go any further, what brought you into politics?
So I've always been interested in politics. I got interested from watching Dr. Ron Paul when he ran in 2008 and 2012.
Yep.
And just the past few years, watching Trump, seeing how he's going against the establishment, going against the system, which I'd known for years is corrupt, the military-industrial complex, which, JFK brought up back in the 60s, which is why they killed him. But I just want to help go against the corrupt swamp. And you saw the impeachment scam, basically, and it just got me all riled up, and I wanted to actually be able to do something about it.
That reminds me, you're going against establishment yourself in your district, right?
Right, going against Frank Pallone. He's been in office for 32 years. I'm only 25, so he's been in office for 7 years longer than I've even been alive.
How do you feel about your other primary candidate, Christian, who's also running as a Republican candidate in your district?
So Christian seems like a great guy. I don't know much about him. He seems like he has a beautiful family, very, God-fearing man. But it is already March 12th, and he doesn't have a website yet. He doesn't have any social media pages. He hasn't been reaching out to voters. And I think that if he actually wants a chance of going against Pallone, someone who's been in for 32 years, somebody who has $3 million in the bank, you need someone who's actually willing to do the work. I've already had a website for 2 months. I've had social media pages. I've been reaching out to voters. Like I mentioned, I have 8 volunteers who actually approached me, and they're willing to spend time to work on my campaign because I've been doing that. And it's just at this date, if he hasn't been doing that already, how is he going to be able to get the support in November?
But he won the Monmouth County already, right?
Right. So he ran for assembly last year. He actually lost 2-1. So I don't know anything about that campaign, but I do know that he already knows people in the party. I'm a newcomer. I don't know anybody. So the committee people did suggest him, so he does get the party line. But all that means is that he has party support of just 50 people. But if you actually look at both our platforms and you see who has more experience and able to bring voters from both sides, I've worked on businesses for years. I've had my own business since I was 16. And I just know that I have the energy and the know-how to actually be able to get this done. So if he runs a campaign like he ran for the assembly, there's no shot against Pallone in November.
So what are your views on the incumbent? Like you said, Frank Pallone has been like 14th term now, right? But 13th
Right.
to 14th term has been there a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that's going to impact the way you be campaigning or your
So it
expectations?
is tough because he has all corporate money coming in. I was looking at his finances. He receives, $50,000 donations, $80,000 donations. He's obviously part of he's on the Energy Committee in Congress. He was a powerful guy, so it's going to be a hard seat to win. He does fight dirty as well. But I think that if we have a grassroots campaign, we go door to door, introduce ourselves to voters, then people will see, he's been in for so long and he hasn't done anything to help our district. Like, for example, the roads are horrible. We all drive over the same potholes every single day. And I think it's just ridiculous that we pay that much in property taxes, gas taxes, we pay for the beaches, we pay for meters, and literally you're driving over, crappy roads all day. He doesn't do anything for our district. People say he helped out with Sandy, but anybody could have helped out with Sandy.
But Sammy, you do realize we are a blue state,
Mm-hmm.
and your district is also a blue district. And per Cook voter index, the probability of Frank Pallone winning again is pretty high. So what makes you feel confident about a victory?
So this year it's a different type of year. It's a Trump year versus either Joe Biden or Bernie Sanders. I think if it's Bernie Sanders versus Trump, Trump's actually going to win 49 or 50 states just because regular voters aren't going to vote for Bernie. Nobody wants socialism or communism in our country. Young voters, unfortunately, are uneducated, so that's why they're all voting for him. And Joe Biden, he doesn't know the difference between his wife or his sister. And, he's not a formidable challenger at all. So I just don't think that people are going to come out in strong numbers for either Biden or for Bernie Sanders in November. And that will give a huge boost to Republicans across the country.
But the so-called uneducated voters, on that note, for Bernie Sanders, right? They are college graduates.
Right.
Yeah. So how are they uneducated?
So they just don't understand what socialism actually means. Like I was speaking to somebody who's a Bernie Sanders supporter, and I was explaining to them what socialism actually means at the end of the day is that it bans entrepreneurship and private ownership of businesses. And he was saying that's not what we want, that's not what we're advocating for, but if you look into the definition of socialism, that's what it is. So the simple fact is when you speak to these people, they just don't understand what socialism actually means. And it bans innovation, it bans, just it's going to shrink the economy and ruin everything.
Well, Bernie seems to redefine the definition of the word to free for all.
Right.
He's announcing everything for free.
Right. But free means somebody has to pay for it. Free doesn't mean that it's just free. It's like if it's a $60 trillion plan like he's proposing for Medicare for all, for free college for all, then that means that somebody has to pay for it. So what they're going to do is
free
tax
Medicaid.
Free Medicaid, right. So they're going to tax the 1% at crazy numbers until either the 1% leave or there is no 1%. Then who else are they going to take money from? Then it's the middle class. Then eventually everyone's going to be the same. We're all going to be poor. It's going to be like Cuba or Venezuela. That's what they want for this country. But I think people are educated. Unfortunately, college-age students don't realize how bad it actually is. But if they studied history, they would see how dangerous socialism actually is to our country.
So one is socialism, and Mr. Biden also has his own baggage, right? He has his corruption charges and things like that. How do you feel about Mr. Biden?
So the whole impeachment scam, I think, was ridiculous because Trump just asked to look into Joe Biden with Ukraine. He said this looks sketchy, that he said to fire the prosecutor, or we're not giving $1 billion in aid. And he just simply asked that, and then they tried to cover up the corruption. But I think that we actually could see what's going on. Hunter Biden was getting paid, I think, $400,000 a month or per year to work on an energy company, and he has no energy experience at all. And he also was getting paid millions of dollars from China. And I think that we could see that there was clear corruption going on, and Trump simply just asked about it, and that's why they were trying to impeach him. But we all know that he's corrupt.
But the Democratic establishment is clearly rallying behind Biden, right?
Right.
He's the establishment candidate.
He's the establishment candidate, yeah.
It's interesting to note, on that note, note that Sanders is giving a tough competition to Biden. He's not giving up. He didn't drop out of the race so far.
Right. He's going for a contested convention because he thinks that neither one of them are going to get the delegates needed to win. And he has a plan to actually, overtake Biden at the convention, because he obviously is not going to just fall in line and support Biden, especially after they screwed him in 2016 against Hillary. So I think Bernie's going to fight till the end, and I do think he has a shot, because just based on the sizes of his crowds.
All right, talking about issues, you mentioned taxes, right? What's your take on the Trump tax plan or the SALT deductions?
So I think that the Trump tax plan has been great. I do think that they need to make it permanent. I just don't like the fact that they're saying it's a tax cut only for 2 years and then that they keep renewing it. I think it should be a permanent tax cut. I think income taxes are choking our country and they're just way too high. Property taxes are a huge problem as well. And I'm fully support any plans to cut the taxes.
What's your take on the immigration policies? Do you think they're fair? Do you think what's your take on immigration policy?
I think it's extremely fair. I don't think that, especially since all the free things that our citizens in our country do receive, I don't think it's fair people are able to just come in illegally, go around the system. If somebody wants to become a citizen the right way, it takes a few years, they have to pay a lot of money, and then if somebody just walks over the border, then they're going to be able to get all the other rights that citizens do in our country. I think it's ridiculous, and I fully support the wall, and I support Trump's plan to secure the border, because I don't think we should just have an open border, or else we don't have a country. As well as a big problem is all the drugs coming over from the southern border. So I do think that the wall will help a lot with that as well.
So you're in favor of the wall?
That's correct.
But the liberal friends argue that the wall would separate the families on either side of the border, and they are in favor of not building a wall.
So Mexico actually has a wall on their southern border with Guatemala, and any modern country secures their borders. So I don't think that it's fair to say that the U.S. is the one country in the entire world that can't secure our borders. There are so many other countries with walls and with armed guards on the borders, things like that. And it's not going to separate families if they're able to come in legally. American citizens can still go visit Mexico. Mexican citizens can still come visit the U.S., but we have to have a legal process.
But the Democrats argue that it's a racial divide more than a border divide.
I don't see how it's a racial divide at all. It's there's millions of Mexican citizens or Mexican Americans in the U.S., and there's a lot of American citizens who reside in Mexico, who work in Mexico, and they'll still be able to come visit whenever they want or go through the legal process. I don't think that it's a racial divide at all.
So, there's a lot of Asians in your district. There's a lot of Asian population. Do you have any special plans for handling that section of the population, or as part of your campaign?
So nothing in particular. I'm running for all Americans. I'm not running for any specific segment of society. I think that's racial politics, and that's what the Democrats are trying to play. They try to pander to one group over the other. I'm just trying to bring freedom back and government corruption for all Americans, lower our taxes, and I think that will help everybody. So no plans in particular to the Asian community, although, I think they're great Americans and I fully support them.
The reason why I ask is the higher the specific racial population, the more the candidates pay attention to their problems. For example, Asians have issues with immigration policies. That's near and dear to their heart. Hispanic population, again, wall issue. So, and also liberals always focus on African American population a lot more. So, which is why I asked if you had any special plans for different sections of the communities.
Right, so I'm not going to pander to a specific section. I just want to run for all Americans and help bring freedom back for all. I'm a constitutional candidate. I just believe in the Constitution fully, and I think all Americans are equal. So I'm not going to try to pander to one segment of the society.
Good. What's your take on, first of all, as a Republican, do you believe climate change is a reality?
I don't think it's a reality at all, just based on the history. You could go back to the 1950s, and they were already saying 10 more years till the Earth is coming to an end. Every 10 years is something else. Then Al Gore ran his whole campaign in 2000 on climate change. I do think that there is a problem with pollution. Obviously, nobody wants to see plastic or garbage or landfills, plastics in the oceans. It affects the animals. Nobody wants to see that. We all want to go to a reusable source. Such as maybe hemp plastic is biodegradable, so that would actually be a really good solution to the problem. But I don't think that the climate change, that taxing people more or banning cars or doing any of these things would actually solve anything. I think it's just a way for them to gain more control over the people.
So how do you think we should handle, because there's scientific reports that there's global warming, right? So what do you think we should do? First of all, do you think we should do something from our side to handle this situation or no?
I don't think that there's actually a problem. I think that's just the regular cycles of the Earth. The Earth always cools and gets warm, and it's not anything that's something to be alarmed about. We should obviously focus on the pollution. We shouldn't have plastics in the oceans. We shouldn't have garbage on the beaches. We shouldn't have garbage in the streets. We should figure out a way to reuse these different types of materials. But I don't think that climate change is a real thing.
So you don't believe in carbon emissions, you don't believe in zero footprint, you don't believe in CO2 emissions, nothing like that?
I don't think that it's going to bring our demise in 7 to 10 years, no.
Okay.
Like as the Democrats say.
What if it's going to bring demise in about 2 decades?
I don't think it will. I think that the Earth just goes through its cycles. They said that the ozone layer was depleting, I think 10, 15 years ago, and now they're saying it's back to normal. I think they're always just raising concerns over something that there should be no concern about.
So you don't believe in science?
I believe in science.
But then there are scientific reports by scientists.
There's a lot of scientists who disagree.
Yeah, but these are from credible sources.
Right.
We're not talking about mom and pop scientists.
Right, and there's a lot of credible sources who say that there isn't a problem. I don't remember her name, but I saw a scientist the other day who said the whole thing was a hoax. And I do think, obviously, pollution is a problem. That's what people see and that's what people care about. But when they just talk about, banning all cars or only showering, once every few days, like in California, there's a law you can't shower and do the laundry in the same day because if it's over 50 gallons, you get charged. I just don't think that that's going to solve anything. I think it's just a way for the government to gain more control over the people.
Right, but I don't think that's pollution related. That's due to water shortage. I was in California a couple of decades ago and I lived there for some time. That's due to water shortage. That has nothing to do with global warming or pollution, though. So just so you know.
Right.
So let's move to foreign policy. Which foreign policy is the most pressing right now, which deserves more attention?
So the Middle East is always, it's been an issue for the last 30, 40 years. We've been in Afghanistan since the 80s with the Mujahideen and whatnot. So I do think that we have to figure out, because the region is becoming more democratic. It's becoming, if you go to Dubai, it's one of the most beautiful countries in the world. And the people there want peace. They want like a prosperous future. So I do think that we have to figure out how to get rid of the endless conflicts in the region. I know that Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, they all want peace with Israel. So we do have to figure out the Palestinian-Israel peace plan. I think that's a major issue facing the world. As well as Russia and China, they are huge threats to the U.S., just the fact that Russia has a crazy nuclear arsenal. And I think that we have to take steps to, deplete that or work out a treaty or such.
I think Mr. Trump recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel,
Hmm.
and also the established an embassy in Israel.
Right.
So what do you think about that?
I think it's absolutely amazing. I know that for the past 40 years we're supposed to recognize the capital of Israel as Jerusalem, and it's never been done until Trump. He finally came out and did it, and I think it's amazing he moved the embassy in a show of solidarity with Israel, as well as I think even more so than the fact that he moved the embassy is the fact that he gave back the Golan. He recognized Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights, which is a huge strategic place because the Syrians were able to shoot missiles from there, snipers, things like that, and it gives Israel way more control over their borders and their security.
What's your take on the USMCA deal in lieu of NAFTA? Do you buy that?
I think that it could be beneficial. I obviously don't know all the ins and outs of the plan, but I do think that obviously our two closest trade partners on our north and our southern border, we should have an open trade agreement.
What's your view on gun control?
So gun control, I think that the Second Amendment wasn't made for hunting. It was made for self-defense and protection of your family and your property. So when they say that the Second Amendment was talking about muskets, it's absolutely ridiculous. I think that we should have no gun control, that we should have obviously some sort of training program. If you want to get a weapon, you should at least go in once a year for a few week course, maybe a few hours a week, and
Would be extensive background checks.
Right, show that you know how to shoot, show you know how to use a weapon in public. But once you go through that, you should be able to carry. You should have a national concealed carry bill. You shouldn't be able, like in New Jersey, basically most of the people only are allowed to have guns in their homes. So I think that's obviously ridiculous because you should be able to protect yourself outside your home as well. So I think that we should have a national concealed carry bill.
Do you think we should have a reciprocity agreement with other states too?
Absolutely.
Okay. What do you think about property taxes? So the past year, I should say this year, excuse me, the property taxes went up close to 2%.
Right.
And they've been going up steadily. So what do you think some of the measures which we could take or you would take to suggest lowering the property taxes?
So New Jersey has the highest property taxes in the whole entire country,
Yep.
by almost double the national average. So what I think that we could do on a federal level is propose a bill that keeps the property tax amount at no more than 10% of the next state below it, because New Jersey is just way too high compared to every other state in the country. And I do think that we have to take a lot of steps to bring down the property taxes. I think it's a huge problem. They overcharge people. They take away people's homes due to foreclosures when it's not deserving. They're already paid off their home. They paid their mortgage, and now they have to pay $14,000, $20,000 a year, which most people just simply can't afford.
So obviously, the elections this year coincide with the presidential elections.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think President Trump would help you in your district, or would President Trump be a liability?
I think President Trump would help me a lot. I actually do know
How?
a few people who are connected to him in my community. There are a few people who actually work with him in the real estate field, and they would be able to get me in touch. And I think that if I was able to bring him to Monmouth County for a rally, it would bring out all the Republicans who don't usually vote. It would bring out the enthusiasm.
He was in Wildwood recently, right?
Right, and they said that 23% of the people who attended were Democrats, because people want to see what he has to say. They want to actually hear him. And I think that if he came to Central Jersey, maybe to Monmouth Raceway or the Meadowlands, I think he'll bring out a lot of voters who don't usually vote, and he may be able to even bring Democrats over to the Republican side as well.
How do you think the landscape is looking for the Republican Party in general in the state of New Jersey? Since it's predominantly a blue state, do you think the count of congressmen would go up or congresswomen?
Yeah, so I know that in 2018, we had a pretty bad year for Republicans in New Jersey, and I know that it was just a bad year for Republicans across the board. But I think that the impeachment scam really woke people up, and people are sick and tired of the Democrats opposing the president at everything he tries to do. And I think that this year, Republicans are going to sweep across the nation.
What makes you think you can beat Frank Pallone?
So he's a tough guy to beat. He has a lot of money and a lot of connections, and he fights dirty as well. But I know that if we run a real grassroots campaign, go door to door, introduce ourselves to all voters, show that we're fighting for the people, not for special interest, people will wake up and actually come out and vote this year. I was looking at the numbers. There's 750,000 eligible voters in my district, and only 220,000 voted last time. So we have to bring people out who don't usually vote. We have to show Democrats that we're going to help fight for their rights as well. Instead of like the Democratic Party, they're just fighting for special interests and climate change and raising higher taxes. And we have to just wake people up and show them the Republicans are the party of the people.
So what's your campaign strategy so far? How are you going ahead with the campaign? Do you have a plan of action or?
So the plan of action currently is, obviously I do need to raise some more money for my campaign, so I'm able to do what I need to do.
So that's the tough part.
That's the tough part. But I would like to start mailing to all the homes in the district, get the word out, speak about my platform. I want to be able to put together a team of at least 100 people, start knocking on doors across the district as well, and introduce, show people what we're running on. And I think that, it's a hard seat to win, but it's a possibility.
Did you start the door-to-door campaigning so far?
I did.
So which towns did you cover so far?
So I was in Metuchen the other day,
Right.
and Edison as well. And I was doing a little bit door-to-door back in my district as well last week, but I'm still trying to put together a team to do that.
So I must ask this question, is the coronavirus hurting your campaign by any chance?
So not yet, but so right now after the NHL, the MLB,
They all got
they're all
canceled.
got canceled. Let's see what
NBA.
happens. People don't want to do events anymore. People don't want to shake hands anymore. So I'm not sure, but I think it's a little overblown. Obviously, the flu kills way more people per year. Obviously, this is a problem. It's highly contagious, and it has a higher mortality rate as well. So we do have to contain it, but I do think people are, a little bit too much of a hype.
It has a political impact too, because the Biden and Sanders canceled their rallies in Ohio too.
Right.
So they did that. So it has its impact on politics too.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
And I mean, they are at risk, obviously, just being older gentlemen. So it's a higher risk for them as well. So let's see how that affects their campaigns till November.
So any closing comments before we end the show?
No, thank you very much for letting me introduce yourself to your viewers. And yep, thank you for having me.
Do you have a website you want to share?
Yeah, my website is gindiforcongress.com. GINDI for congress.com. If you want to check out my Facebook and Instagram pages as well, the same at Gindi for Congress.
All right, Sammy, thank you very much for your time, and I wish you all the very best.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, viewers, that's all the time we have for this week. Next time, we'll come back next week. We'll come back with another guest. Until then, ta-da, take care, God bless America.